Hey there, this is K4A, Knowledge for All, educational videos and tutorials. Today I will try to show you how and when you can use GML visual drag and drop block, which is called set animation speed. Animation is some kind of change, and in games it's mostly visual change, so you should think about it as change of image, sprite of your object instance, and so on. So that's what we are going to do today, and that animation can be done by sprites, images, as I just said, or sometimes it can be triggered or controlled by code and so on. Today we will talk about animation changes in images, so it's about visual changes, and let's see where we can use that. In my game so far I have some kind of zombies spawning and chasing my player. I want to disable that first because I don't want to get distracted by that, so I'm entering my obj zombie spawner, disabling everything which I can, and also with my obj enemy create, set direction fix and so on. Step event is where my chase begins, so I'm going to disable all of those. It's relatively fast, and if you don't have these features so far, good for you. So let me just test the game and then we will start coding the animation. Okay, great. So I have some feature enabled before to lay eggs on my screen with my player whenever I press the button E on my keyboard. So those eggs are different in size, rotation, scale, and so on. So that's all cool, but for example we added one more feature here. So when I click on the egg, the zombie will be laid out of it, hatched out of it, and now they do not chase me because we have disabled that. But for example, I have a task from my game designer or lead game artist or whatever to change the look of those eggs somehow. So for example, they look so far so good, but we need to make them a little bit more interesting with adding some kind of change in details in their look. So maybe let's try with some kind of animation, and let's make them some kind of zombie or maybe alien eggs or something like that. So I have to find my obj egg first, double click on it. Okay, so it's focused now on my screen. Then I will check what I have on my in my create event, set instance color, randomize my rotation and scale. I don't want to change that, and when left pressed, okay, I will disable turn to obj enemy. So okay, I have my object here, but because I want to change the look of it, the image of it, we have learned that before in different tutorials, that image is called sprite in GameMaker and in different game engines. So all you have to do is open the sprite folder if that's where you have saved your sprites images, and find the sprite which represents the egg or whatever you want to choose, and if you were patient and smart enough, then you have named that sprite as SPR egg and you will find it fast. But if you have lots of different sprites, images and so on, and if you don't rename them the moment you make them, later you will get messy and you will lose yourself in finding those. Okay, I have a sprite egg, and so far again that's what I was explaining in last two videos. Take care about frames per second. You will use that in different elements of your game. We have learned how to change the alarm countdown and so how we have a frame per second there also, but also we have learned where to find change game frame per second option and so on. So we see that again now here in sprites. Every sprite, I can open sprite spike, also has FPS in this top left corner here, and it says frames per second, or you can use frames per game frame. I don't want to confuse you now. We will explain that maybe later in some other video, but just be aware that this animation runs 30 frames per second, and you can see below this sprite there is a play button, so I can test it, and you can see the GameMaker tries to test the animation, but because I have only one frame, nothing happens. We will change that soon. So for animation, if you want to make some kind of change, you need more images, more than one. So first image can be white, second can be black, and so on. So you can animate different colors like that, or scale, size, rotation, look, whatever you want. We will show that now, but just think about it logically. If I want to change something, then I need couple of those images. If I want to change image, I need another image to show what the change will be. That's what we're going to do now. So my origin is in my middle center. Okay, I don't want to change that. I will click on edit image, but you can also import animations. We will learn that in different video. And let's finally start to add some kind of animation. This video will probably belong around 20 minutes or so, because although we are making very simple animation, because it just takes time to do that and so on. So again, try to plan your games up front before you start making them. We are doing this just for purposes of tutorials and go with the flow approach, but all of those things we are doing now, you should first define in some kind of game design document. Okay, first of all, I'm going to zoom out a little bit to see this clearer, and then I'm going to press this button here which says nothing, but it has this plus sign. Or maybe I can also, yeah, I think they're doing the same thing. I need this add frame. That means my sprite will have more frames. That means I will have more than one sprite in my sprite. So for example, I can have sprite of ball with sprite of building in it, with sprite of character in it, and so on. So I can put sprites into sprites, and then they are called frames. So you can have many sprites in one sprite, or so-called frames, and you mostly do that because of animation. When you need some kind of animation and you create animation, it's not very smart to put sprites into other sprites. Sometimes it is, but rarely. So mostly those are used for animation, and that's why they are called frames. They are part or frames of one bigger animation. So I can do that by right clicking on this first frame, this first sprite, and say okay, add frame, and I will get this blank one. I don't need that. I want to actually copy this one. So okay, or duplicate. I don't have duplicate. Copy and paste, and I have now same sprite as a starting point. That's cool for me. Let me see. Just yeah, this one gives me blank. I don't want blank. Sometimes you will need blank frames. I don't need them now, so I can click one more time to no, I can even click paste, even better, to make another one. So yeah, I have 3 frames now, 3 images, 3 sprites, and they are all, if I close this preview, they are all, you can see them now, they are all here in my first sprite. And now when I test the play sequence, although it looks like nothing changes, actually GameMaker runs fast through these 3 frames. And because we don't have change, let's make some. So okay, this first one will be my starting point, so I don't want my to change that. I want my egg to start blank as it is here. Okay, no changes. Okay, cool. And the second one, I want to add some kind of changes, and we said we're going to make some kind of alien or zombie egg with zombies or aliens hatching from it. So let me pick, yeah, even my mouse is a little bit buggy, so you should be able to pick that with one click. Yeah, I'm going to pick first this color and add maybe some kind of random sketches, or maybe ellipse tool. Yeah, let me try to make, so this will be first frame. And yeah, you can see now I have a problem here. If I go to the frame number 3, it's a blank one, so I will delete that one, and actually I will copy this one because I want to make progression on it. So copy, paste. So think about it as a change in time and space, not only in space, in meaning not only this egg will change its form, material, shape, whatever, but also that will happen in some time. So for example, you can think about it, this egg is in first second, this egg, this is how it looks in second, and now in third one we can add even more of those or make those bigger. And I will duplicate this one more time, copy, paste, and now I will add some kind of maybe a little bit darker green, and maybe a little bit like some kind of cracks or veins showing up. So you can go wild with this, and actually this takes time to like everything else, to make it look good and better. It will take more time and more skill and so on, but so far so good. Oops, yeah, you saw what I have done. I've done it now. I made a mistake. I've done this on my third frame instead of my fourth or fifth, but maybe I can just, yeah, I can just drag it like this. So let me go now back to my starting point, and let me play this button. And you can see that we have some kind of animation. It looks crazy, but it was done relatively fast. And I have a few problems here. The first one is, as I said, let me stop this before losing my mind. I will change this FPS. I explained you earlier that FPS means how fast, how many frames per second you want your game to run, or in this case animation, or we saw earlier we had alarm countdown also uses frames, so as frames as time measure. So if I see here that my animation is crazy fast and I have it 30 frames per second, I think it should be logical for everyone, programmer or not, just to say, okay, if this 30 is now and I have it really fast, I just have to lower it. So let's try with 15, not 1530, but 15. Yeah, it's simple as that. It's much better now. Okay, it's still very fast. Let me go with, yeah, now it's much better, and maybe a little bit slower, even 1 frame per second. Yeah, this looks great. Maybe a little bit faster, like 2 or 3. Oops, 31. Yeah, you should be careful because you can make errors like it just did. Yeah, I like this. I like how it looks. Maybe we will add some kind of sound effect later and so on. But let me see now first what happens in my game. I have only changed my sprite and I haven't changed my obj egg code at all. If you remember, I have just disabled this. When the left button is pressed on the egg, then turn it into zombie, but create event is same. Check out the game now. I know this is slow, but for most of you this will happen you on the long term and on the long run, and because it will explain you how animation works and the basics of it in GameMaker and different game engines. What we learn here is also you can apply it also in different game engines and solve a lot of problems. Okay, so now I'm going to press the E button and lay some eggs on the screen, and if you remember in a previous attempt when I did that, eggs were brownish and different in size, rotation and so on, but they were not animated. Now take a look. They're already animated, and for some of you yeah, it looks cool, like some kind of light show. For some of you this will work good enough for your game, and some of you will want those eggs to or objects you have on your screen to be animated right away. And what I wanted to show you here is that is the default state. So if you have some kind of animation sprite animated on your object, it will start right away. So far in our game we have used very simple sprites, one color, green, white, black, red and so on, and we didn't have any kind of animation so far. That's why we didn't saw this happening on the screen, but this is actually default state. Once again, that is very important to know. So if I have some kind of animation on my sprite like I have here on my egg, and I use that sprite like I did here on my obj egg, so once again my sprite egg sprite, it has animation and I use it on my obj egg, and by default that animation will start right away if I somehow don't say to GameMaker, okay, stop it. And that's what we are going to do here, and soon this tutorial will end. Okay, around 20-25 minutes, not so bad. So that is where I'm going to use this set animation speed, and that block is one of the, but we had to make some kind of scenario for that first, just because we needed to explain all of those concepts. Okay, that block is here under instances blocks. we have learned almost all of those. I mean, learned some of their possible usage and so on. So I will just click and drag this one on my screen. I will zoom out a little bit, focus it, and I will put it on the top. And again, just use your common sense, your mind, and you will understand. Okay, this says speed is 1. I want my eggs not to have animation, not to start animating right away. So it makes most sense, and I think it will work to use speed 0. So when I go to my sprite egg, I have some frames per second, but because I have used coding here and I said, okay, that's all cool, but I say speed is now 0. Now they should be stopped from animating. And sometimes, as I want here in my game, sometimes you want to do that. You want to say, okay, no animation here, cool. So I want to make my game more complex or more logical and so on. So I want to add that animation when I want, not from the start, not by default, how GameMaker wants, but how I want, how my game designer wants, or whatever, whoever is working with me on my game. So okay, he says now, okay, this looks good, but I need those eggs animated, like for example he can say 5 seconds from the start. So what you're going to do, I'm not going to do that for you, you can do that on your own, or at least try. You will use this block, set alarm countdown, and then say after 5 seconds, and for 5 seconds you will say 5 seconds means 5 times as many frames per second I have. So if I have 30 frames per second in my game options, that means I will use 150 in FPS set alarm countdown, and then do what? Then set animation speed to 1. I will, for example, use that not in yeah, I can use it with alarm maybe just to show you, but that can be some kind of homework for you. I will use it, for example, with left press just to show you something else, like some other option or idea for your game. So when the left button is pressed on obj egg, that means when I click on my obj egg instance on the screen, set animation speed to 1. And 1, again, don't let this 1 and 0 confuse you. 1 is like a multiplier to your sprite FPS. I think so. Let me try. Let me see if this works. Couple of problems which we can have here is also another thing to learn in GameMaker and game engines in general, and that is what will happen if I click on one egg. Will all of those start animating, or one only, and so on? So we will see that soon, and if something unexpected happens, now we will explain that later. But so far my code is working in terms of game is working as I want. I had my sprite egg animated, but because I have used code in create event set animation speed to 0, it doesn't start animating right away, but it stops. And let me try to test this one. When I click left pressed mouse button on my obj egg, my animation should start with speed of 1 times FPS. Yeah, you see how this looks cool. So you can maybe I'm clicking on different eggs, and they start to animate. Yeah, this small one is cool. So you can maybe think about this where you can use it, or in different types of games or so on. So I don't know, there are endless possibilities. You can use it in some kind of real-time strategy games, or when you click on some kind of unit like worker, he is animated differently, and when you click on building, it animates differently, or something like that. Or you can, as I said, you can just try to think about experimenting and connecting different game blocks which we have learned so far. So for example, I can, instead of animating when I click on egg, I can animate 5 or 10 seconds from when the egg is on the screen, and so on. Or maybe add if expression, and if variable is something like I don't know, if egg, I can make, for example, egg hatching time variable, and put that turn that into 10 seconds or 15 seconds, or make it random, and so on. So endless possibilities. And just try to combine, try to experiment, and make the games you want. You can change the animation of zombie when it starts chasing the player, so it becomes angry, and when its zombie variable health is going low, he can then change its animation to zombie scared and run away, and so on. So I don't have time or um, need to make all of those here, because, as I said, those ideas are endless, and just put them on the paper, put them in some of your game design document, and go step by step. The whole idea here is to learn the principles, the concepts, the basic use of these blocks, and then you can use them later however and whenever you want, and if you need them at all. Maybe some of your games won't have animation, that's also cool, like, I don't know, Tetris blocks, they do not animate and no one cares, the game is great, and so on. So just go with the flow, or use whenever and whatever of those blocks you need. That's the whole idea of it. We have shown only just the fraction of it, and only some kind of examples and usages. Those are endless. Bye for now, and thanks for watching. Half an hour, but I think it was a good one.